start it, but we are live. Hi, everybody. Charles from GMAT Ninja here. Welcome to our panel with three students who've taken both the GMAT Classic and the GMAT Focus, or at least a mock exam of each. Want to talk about the differences between those exams and everybody's experiences with them. So our three panelists today, we have Simran, Naveen, and Enrico. What I'd like to do to start with is just super quick introductions. Have each of you just tell us, where are you in the world? What are you doing for work now? What do you plan to do with your graduate degree? And Enrico, let's start with you. Where are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so it's nice to meet you, and I'm Enrico. I am from Bari in the south of Italy, but now I'm studying in Milan. In particular, I am a student. I am in my third year of university, a bachelor in business administration, and I'm applying for a master in management, hopefully next year.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Simran, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Simran. I'm from India. I have about 4.5 years of work experience as of yesterday, in fact. I'm looking forward to cutting that short to 5 years next year and starting with an MBA program. I've given the GMAT Classic version, and as Charles mentioned, I've given only the mocks for the Focused Edition. So that's why you don't see my score up there. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you, Simran. And Naveen, tell us about yourself, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Naveen Kumar Singh from Mumbai, India. So I'm working at the Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank of India, and I gave the GMAT and the GMAT Focus both. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this discussion, and particularly I will be applying for the Master in Finance course sometime this year or next year.
Awesome. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us. Okay, if you're watching us live, please ask questions. Any questions you have about impressions about the GMAT Focus, GMAT Classic, difference between the two. Really nice variety in these three in terms of what their experiences have been in their life experiences. And conveniently, we also have applicants applying to three very different kinds of programs: Masters in Management, Finance, and MBA. So if you're watching live, please ask your questions, whether you're watching it live or not live. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. If you're enjoying this, helps other people find the video and get the help they need on the GMAT. All right. Who should I pick on first? Naveen, just because you wrote such a massive, wonderful debrief, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the video description for anybody who needs it, debriefs from, at least two of these three. Love to start with you. So you took both the classic GMAT and the Focus, correct? So here's my big question for you. What made you choose the Focus? We're recording this in the period where you have the choice. We've got a 3-month or so overlap where you could take either one. What led you to the Focus? And so tell us a little bit about that experience of going from studying for the Classic and then saying, nope, bleep this, I'm doing the Focus. Why was that?
Well, the primary reason was that I was not very good at sentence correction. In my classic GMAT, I scored just 650, even though I scored around 710 and something like that in the mocks, but I scored very less. I scored just 650. And sentence correction was the main reason. And second thing was that I considered myself to be better at quant than at verbal. And I thought that that would rub something off in my DI scores. Though that is a different story because quant and DI are not exactly, before I started preparation for GMAT Focus, I thought that my quant skills may rub off in the DI, but that is not exactly the way it is because it's a completely different ball game. But I still felt that by ducking the sentence correction, I was in a better position to improve my GMAT score. That's why I chose GMAT Focus.
Awesome. And I want to circle back later to that question of just how quant heavy is data insights. Because if I heard you right, Naveen, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think I just heard you kind of say, well, your initial thought was, I'm better at quant, data insights is quant, but then the experience maybe wasn't as quanty on that section.
Right.
Perfect.
Yes.
Let's circle back to that because I think it's a really huge element of what GMAT Focus is and how maybe our minds need to shift a little bit in preparing for it. All right, Enrico, same question. You had the choice, right, of classic versus Focus. What led you to the Focus?
I think 100% focus just because, as Naveen, I don't like too much sentence correction. Also because I am a non-native speaker, and so I don't like too much English grammar. And so I thought that I would be better with data insights rather than sentence correction, and also geometry is not my stronger part in the quant. So I when I saw the GMAT Focus option, I thought, okay, so that's mine. I have to do GMAT Focus, mainly because of sentence correction, geometry part, and also because you have a break of 10 minutes that is very useful, and you can divide better what you have to do.
Excellent. And Simran, you still have the choice, right? So you're not GMAT final yet. You're still looking ahead to taking the test, taking the actual classic exam, practice test for the focus. Are you still planning to take the focus? I guess tell us a little bit about your thinking and kind of what the experience has been for you so far in terms of making that decision.
Sure. So I'm actually planning to take the Focus Edition within the time frame of the Classic Editions last months, I guess. So the reason I'm more interested in the Focus Edition is not really because of sentence correction or geometry. Those were actually where I scored in my previous exam. It's more so for the overall for my stamina, as far as like a 3-hour 7-minute versus a 2-hour 15-minute exam is concerned. I know that I'm going to go in much better, mentally happier, knowing that I have to spend less time. And also I found that this particular exam is going to be more relevant as far as what schools are looking for versus what actual businesses are looking for. So I was more interested in taking that risk and trying to explore what differences the exam had as opposed to the classic version. So that was the point of interest for me.
Interesting. So it was less, if I'm hearing you right, Simran, less about sort of you being really tactical about saying this gives me the best odds of admission exactly, and more about saying, well, wait a minute, one of these tests is going to be a better testing experience and is just better aligned to what business schools need. So I might as well take that one.
Exactly. Yes.
That's fascinating. Interesting. Because usually that is the part about the brevity makes total sense. And I could see Enrico and Naveen kind of nodding along and going, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe for some people watching it doesn't sound like a huge difference, that whatever, 52 minutes, if my math is correct. But it's that last hour that really hurts, right? So I think there's a lot of people that would agree with that. It's fascinating to hear Naveen and Enrico say, yeah, sentence correction, not my strong suit. Simran, you're saying, I'm good at it, but still you prefer the focus just because of the alignment. I find that fascinating. And I guess I'll stick with you for a moment or two here. Say a little bit about on the things that are on the GMAT Focus. What have you found difficult so far? What have you found easy? What are the skills you feel like you've really had to work on as you've kind of made that transition and committed to the GMAT Focus?
I think particularly time management has been a little bit more difficult, considering the fact that sentence correction was one place where we could really save up on time. Verbal has been a little harder to finish in time. Similarly, for me, geometry was my strong point. So geometry was where I actually saved time on the classic edition as well. So that has been a little bit tricky. I think data insights overall has been really hard on time management. Um, it's been difficult sort of interpreting graphs and like multi-source reasoning. These are all places where that eat up your time. So just managing that and knowing that that counts towards the overall score has been really difficult.
So I guess let's run with this idea of time management and you said, if I heard you right, data insights in particular is where you felt, or verbal and data insights. Is that fair? So quant less so, and data insights and verbal, you felt more of a time pinch?
Yes.
Okay. Let's ask the gentleman here as well. What did you think? Like, let's start with verbal. Say a little bit about time management on verbal. Like, did you feel like it was really crunched for you guys? And Enrico, I'll go to you first on that. How'd you feel?
Yeah, verbal was my weakness. Honestly, I had to work a lot on improving my time management, and I took 3 GMAT Focus mock tests before I could be able to really understand how to do all the question in the 45 minutes time requirements. Also because you have 23 question and it is more than Quant and data insights. And I was like, okay, I'm better in Quant. Why do I have to do more verbal questions? So I had to work really hard on this, and it was my weakness, honestly. Also for data insight, I think that it really depends on how much you are strong in the verbal part, because it's really similar from my perspective, at least. So I struggled with the verbal.
And were you able to finish the section on time, Enrico, or did
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
guess? You finished.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, completely. Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations. It's tough to do. Naveen, same question. How'd you find the time management on verbal on the focus?
Well, in my mocks, I was not managing the time so well, but I think the key is to practice, and not just practice, but also have see what my mantra for time management was. I made a, two columns. One was the number of questions left and number of minutes left. So so suppose after fourth question, I should suppose like after 30 minutes, I should be on this question. After 15 minutes, should be on this question. So in between the exam, I just checked that how many minutes are left, and then I would get back to the scale which I had drawn at how much time is left. So it takes a while to practice this. So that's why your mock exams are extremely crucial. And they're not just crucial for your scores, but also for time management. In fact, it's more for time management because you try out different things, different order of tempting sections, different permutation combination of breaks. And then you see that, okay, I'm better off with this particular permutation. So in my exam, I was able to finish verbal on time. I just had around 2 or 3 minutes left, and then I went back to a question and changed from an incorrect to a correct in like that. So yeah, it it was a very nice experience. Normally, I did not finish the verbal on time in my mocks, but I was able to do it on the test day.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you actually had a better experience timing wise on test date than you did on your mock exams. That's fascinating. I do want to talk more about time management on data insights because I think you have this sort of multifacetedness of different question types, and one of the things we're seeing in debriefs is that that's often a struggle. I want to circle back to that. We're starting to get enough viewer questions. Again, if you guys are watching this live, please ask us anything. And as long as it's on topic and something that panelists can address, we will get it in here. We've got a question from Harsha. And again, as always, apologies for any mispronunciations. Hey, panelists, scored a 710 on the actual GMAT, on the classic GMAT. I keep saying actual, on the old GMAT. 585 on the GMAT Focus. So big gap. Feel my performance was relatively the same. So would you say the scoring is lenient on the classic? And we have a couple of other similar questions here. Just the idea that somebody else says, oh, I got 4 questions wrong on a section of the GMAT Focus, but ended up only getting a 79. 79 is a good score. So I guess my question for all three of you is, because the sections are so much shorter than on the GMAT Classic, where you have, depending on the section, so 20 questions for data insights, 21 for quant, 23 for verbal, versus the 31, 36 we had on the classic GMAT. Do you feel like there's less margin for error? Do you feel like you're getting punished for just another mistake or two? And I'm seeing a really interesting look on Enrico's face. So we'll start with you and then we'll circle around. So how are you thinking about all that?
Yeah, it's a weakness because I scored 19 out of 21 in the quant and I only got an 81. So 81 out of 90. I don't know, because generally I had 78% of all the answer correct, and in the classic GMAT, at least if you are over the 75 or 77%, you're going to have more than 700 score. At least I'm basing what I'm saying on a research conducted by Target Test Prep. And so I was like, okay, so I had 90% of correct answer in the quant part. So why did I get only an 81? So I think that is a really good point what Arsha has said. And it's really interesting to analyze better this thing.
And Enrico, and I apologize if I'm remembering this incorrectly from your debrief. Did you miss, was it the first one and the last one, and there was one you corrected?
Yeah, I was.
So
Yeah.
remind us of which ones did you miss? And again, one of the wonderful, I'll point out one of the wonderful things about Focus is your report afterwards. They're not going to show you the actual question, but you can see which question number you missed. So take us through that.
Yes.
Enrico.
Yes, in the Quant part, I missed only the first and the penultimate. And also, I changed the 8th question from incorrect to correct. And I don't know if this have influenced my score or not, but I don't know.
I found that really interesting. When we talk about adaptive testing, typically what's going on here is that, okay, if you miss the first question, so every question you see is based on your performance up to that point. So I don't want anybody panicking and saying, oh, I'm going to spend 8 minutes making sure I get the first question right. That is not what I'm saying is a good strategy. But one of the quirks of adaptive testing is that you happen to miss the first one. So certainly the first half of your section was probably easier than it might otherwise have been. You missed number 8, the first pass through. So I think in your case, what probably happened was you were seeing easier questions than you're capable of answering correctly.
Yeah,
maybe. How much did it hurt your score? I don't think it would be a huge effect, but probably just enough that it probably cost you a couple points.
Yes.
You have a good score anyway, but for what it's worth.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's probably a factor. So fascinating. 2 mistakes on Quant, 81. I think those mistakes were in unfortunate locations in the test in your case. Naveen, thoughts on just that margin for error as you practiced and did a ton of analysis?
Well, I'm shocked to hear Enrico's experience because in my mocks, I gave 6 mocks of the MBA.com that I purchased. So in 2 of my mocks, I scored 100% in Quant, and in 3 of my in the rest 4, I did a bit of error. But just by solving 2 questions wrong, he's getting 81. That was not my experience. So in fact, I was under this impression that probably this test is not as adaptive, but I think I need to revisit my hypothesis after Enrico's experience, because uh, uh, I think my whole strategy for this exam was, because for this exam, what mattered is the sum of your scores. Okay, it doesn't matter that you get 19 quant or 19 verbal. Okay, this is very unscientific, by the way. Okay, this is extremely unscientific because getting a 82 in verbal lands me at 79th percentile. Getting an 82 in DI, I am at 94th percentile, and both are given equal weightage. Okay, so this is unscientific, but still, my whole strategy was that I had to maximize my quant score. I knew that I can score 100% whatever be the test. I just wanted to make the minimum errors, and I think that paid off. But yes, and I was aware that even if I leave, or even if I do 1 or 2 questions incorrect, it will land me at 84, 85. Little did I know that it would have landed me at 81. Okay, but I was under the impression it would have landed me at 84, 85, and that would be a huge setback. Like I would have been at 645 instead of 695 because of that. So the margin of error is, yes, very less, because in the previous quant, in the classic GMAT, a Q51 was unheard of. I mean, very few people could have scored Q51, and Q49 and Q50 were like very common scores. But now it's not anymore. Like there is equidistance between different scores.
So quick message from our friends at GMAC, because I've had an embarrassingly long set of nerdy conversations with their psychometrics team, the people that put together the exams. Very much still adaptive. They've certainly tweaked some things in how the algorithm works, still certainly adaptive. And there's been rumors floating around that it isn't, and it certainly still is. That hasn't changed. I think the question as test takers, and I'm not sure how actionable it is, no matter what the answer is that, yeah, you get these shorter sections, and there's inevitably going to be this feeling that you have less margin for error. A couple of badly placed errors will cost you more. From a technical perspective, that might not necessarily be the case. where those careless errors were going to cost you on the classic as well. But I think, and if I'm hearing Naveen and Enrico, hearing you guys correctly so far, it certainly feels that way, where one or two mistakes in the wrong place, you feel like you're getting punished for it. Is that a fair assessment? All right,
Absolutely.
Simran, thank you so much, you guys. Simran, same question for you. You've had, again, you took the classic GMAT, been spending a lot of quality time with the focus. Is your feeling different as you've been doing these and looking at your scores and watching the swings in your scores? Does it feel overly sensitive to you, or does it feel pretty much the same as before?
I would say that it is definitely more sensitive to how you're going about answering your questions. How many you're getting wrong, how many you're getting right. I feel it's more, it makes more of a difference in the Focus Edition than it did in the classic version. Somebody in the chat mentioned that the Focus Edition is less forgiving than the classic version, and I would unfortunately have to agree. That has been my experience as well. A lot of fluctuation in score depending on how many you get right in a row, and basically, as you mentioned, where your incorrect questions are placed.
So you just have less time to recover than you would on a 31 question classic
Right.
section or a 36 question section. Yeah, fair
Right. You
enough.
still have time to sort of get back to those harder level questions in the classic GMAT, whereas there's less scope for getting the algorithm back into your favor with the Focus Edition.
Yeah, fair enough. And I don't want anybody to get paranoid and start going, I can't make a mistake. I can't make a mistake. But I think it is one of those things that you're just going to feel as you practice for these. Now, the nice thing is you have 3 sections. So maybe that helps balance it out. If you make a mistake or two on one section, you've got 2 others to compensate. And I think that would be my hope if I were in your shoes. Okay, getting a question here about Quant. Take a few user questions here. The question is pretty broad. What fundamental quant topics should I master before delving into the GMAT Focus quantitative reasoning? And there's a question about how do I strengthen my basics? Well, plenty of resources out there to study. I don't think we need to address that. But I guess, Simran, I'll start with you on this. As you're kind of seeing the difference between the 2 exams, is there anything you're noticing just on the quant and the quant topics and their importance? Is there anything that you've noticed in terms of differences? Obviously, no more geometry. In theory, other than that, the content of the 2 exams quant-wise is supposed to be the same. Small sample of 21 questions on any given exam. Obviously, you're going to have some randomness there, and you might happen to see a lot of one thing and none of another. But as you've done, multiple rounds of practice, are you seeing anything major in terms of the differences of how you would prepare, again, other than geometry?
Right. So I have seen a lot of repeating topics. Like there's a lot of importance given to rates, for example. I noticed a few other individuals who have given the Focus Edition had a similar experience. Also, like inequalities, equalities. I got a series of questions, and unfortunately, that was the topic that I practiced the least. And it's as if the algorithm knew and it decided to throw more of those questions at me. So, as far as preparation is concerned, I would say give each and every topic equal importance, because you don't know what you're going to get more of on the exam. So, never take that risk as far as individual topics or subtopics are concerned.
And Naveen, I see vigorous nodding there. Thoughts on that?
My 2 cents will be, if you're not good at a question, don't waste a lot of time on that. Just mark and just move forward. Because in one of my mocks, I was stuck at one question, and I made it a matter of ego in a quant question, and I spent 17 minutes. Okay, okay, and I got just 625 in that mock. That's what I remember overall. So don't do that. Okay, just don't do that in a mock. Okay, just to experience this whole feeling. But in the real exam, if you are spending like more than 4 minutes, just mark and move on, because you are getting those 3 review questions. So you can always come back and correct it. So yeah, that is more important.
Did I hear you right, Naveen? 17 minutes on one question on a mock
Yeah,
exam.
yes,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So okay, so do what Naveen says, not what he did. Remember, you can review anything you want on the GMAT Focus. You can change up to 3 answers. If you get stuck, let it go. But Naveen, it sounds like topic-wise, nothing radically different again, other than the geometry and small sample size. So any given test, you could see, any funny cluster. Is that your experience as well, topic-wise?
No, I think it was a well-balanced paper. Each and every section, I mean, they use those 20 questions very nicely. So the
Good.
paper was well set up. Yeah.
Good. Enrico, thoughts on just topics for quant in particular? Is there anything that you were surprised by? Anything that seemed different to you from GMAT Focus to the GMAT Classic, just in terms of the quant topics that were tested?
Honestly, I found it quite similar in terms of what they were asking me. Also, because I practiced with official guide that were about of the official guide 2022. So you have the classic GMAT, and I was averaging also 90% there. So I was expecting to do well also during the GMAT Focus. So I found it quite similar, honestly. Nothing different. So if you're scoring well in the GMAT Classic, you are going to score even better in the GMAT Focus, from my perspective.
Perfect. Thank you. Interesting comment here from, and again, as always, apologies for mispronunciation, Sarab. I gave an official mock GMAT Focus exam, got 4 questions wrong on the quant section, and still got a quant 85. So surprised to, so here's Enrico, missed 2, got an 81. Sarab on an official practice test, missed 4, got 85. So that is the adaptive algorithm at work right there, where Enrico, you missed number 1 and was it number 8 or number 9 initially. So I think that kept the difficulty level pretty low, and that held your score down. And then Sarab here missed 4, got a higher score. Yeah, and that's the same sort of thing we used to see on GMAT Classic all the time too, is that there is at least some decoupling between number of questions you miss and your score. It's more about what you miss than it is how many. Okay. So the other kind of batch of questions we're getting here, and I'm not sure that we have a ton to say in this group about it. Question about how do we know for sure that business schools would prefer the GMAT Focus Edition? Somebody else asking, I think kind of more generally, like, how are business schools going to treat these two? So Simran, Naveen, Enrico, if you have any thoughts on this, feel free to turn your mic on. Go for it, Naveen.
Yeah, I think the GMAC has done a good job in teaching the business schools, bringing that concordant tables, and just give them due credit, because what business schools do today is they normalize scores across different countries. Okay, in one country, normalize GPS across different institutions. So I'm very sure that they will be ready with their own algorithm and own shortlisting procedures for GMAT Focus. I don't think that they will, like, it matters at all. I mean, this is actually, in fact, they will be very professional about it. I think they will go by the concordant tables, and internally they might have some sectional cutoffs, like everyone should have more than 80 in each section, or whatever it is for different schools.
And one thing I'll point out that I think what often happens on the internet is, we sort of personify GMAC. Oh, it's this monster inside the machine here to torture test takers. Something we forget is that GMAC is a consortium of business schools. It is operated by business schools. Yes, it's a separate organization, but it's a member association. It's a nonprofit. So GMAT Focus was developed in partnership with business schools to help address what business schools wanted to see from the test. And that's how we ended up with Data Insights is, hey, what are your jobs? What are your jobs now? I mean, I'm sure that all 3 of you are staring at plenty of data. Enrico, I know you're still in school, but we stare at data all the time. And sometimes those data displays are terrible. And sometimes they're less terrible, but have extra information. So they develop Data Insights in part to help address, hey, how is your ability in a real world setting to process information? So it was developed in partnership with business schools. They're not going to explicitly give a priority to one versus the other. For what it's worth, one thing I do find myself thinking about a lot, and Enrico, I mentioned this before, I think before we turned the cameras on, that there are psychological thresholds. And I think business schools are going to do everything they can. GMAT is telling them use the concordance tables, use percentiles, compare these fairly. I'm confident that business schools will do their best to do that. That said, we operate emotionally sometimes. 700 has always been a key threshold. It's just been a number that has an importance in our culture, especially in the US. People respond to it. Are we still going to have those thresholds on the GMAT Focus? I'm sure they're going to evolve over time. And one of the things that I suspect over time we're going to see is that when schools see you crossing that threshold of an 80 on each section, they go, okay, well, this guy is going to be fine across the board. And Naveen and Enrico, congratulations to both of you. You crossed 80 on both. But I think as schools are trying to sort of intuitively interpret these tests, I actually think that crossing 80 on each section might, I don't know, pure speculation, might end up being something that we see a lot of in admissions where they go, okay, this person's over 80 on all 3 sections. They're probably fine academically. Again, that's speculation at this point. Enrico, Simran, Naveen, any other thoughts on score interpretation or what you're saying? Enrico, go for it.
I think that the data insights can be pretty interesting because, I have seen friends that were just taking the IR session guessing. And so I think that it wasn't so reliable as a source of information. So now business school can really look at this tower score at the data insights to have precious information, because data insights is really interesting. And I love it at this part because you can really challenge yourself with a practical problem. So I think that business school can really look at this score and that you had not in the classic GMAT. Or at least it's not so reliable, I think.
Yeah, let's stick with you for a minute, Enrico, because we're getting a lot of questions about data insights, and this might be where we spend the rest of our time. Again, if you have questions, you're watching live, please pop them in there, try to get to them. Got a little less than 15 minutes to go here. Enrico, I'd love to hear more, just because we're getting questions from viewers about it. Would love to hear more about how you found the time management on data insights specifically. Anything in particular that jumped out at you? I think you're saying something similar to what Simran was saying earlier, that you felt that the section was well aligned to useful skills that are important. Is there anything in terms of how you prepared or how you managed your time that you'd like other test takers to know about?
Yeah, I want to just be more relaxed our test taker, just because I practiced with the official guide that basically had not too many questions about data inside, and I still managed to add a good score, because basically what you have to do is just think, but you have to practice a lot on on the read compression and critical reasoning, because all depends on this. And so if you are able to read long passage and understand how every question works, so please just do well on every question. So you basically have to develop a strategy for every question. So practice, do a lot also of verbal, and then you are going to do well also on that inside. Do obviously mock test, see how you're doing and where you have to improve, and then the game is done. Don't worry too much about that inside, because you're going to do well if everything about quant and verbal is okay. And also pay attention to multi-source reasoning, because it's quite challenging, because I think that there are a lot of traps on that part. So pay attention, because it can be quite challenging.
That was perfect, Enrico. Okay, so 2 things I want to make sure everyone heard really clearly from you. One is, most of the skills you need on data insights are going to spill over from verbal and quant. So if you're getting really good at reading critical reasoning, your fundamental quant skills are strong, go practice some data insights, you're going to be okay. Multi-source reasoning, say more about those traps. And for those who aren't familiar, multi-source reasoning, it's the only question type on data insights where you see more than one question for a given set of information. So typically you'll see 2 or 3 tabs of information and then 3 questions attached to that set of tabs. So it's the one thing you kind of have to watch out for from a timing perspective. What we've seen so far is either 1 or 2 of those sets per data insights section. Typically 1, some people are seeing 2. Enrico, I'd love to hear more. What are those traps you're talking about? What is it that you'd recommend that test takers do to prepare for them?
I think that the main trap is that they insert a lot of information that are not really useful, and you can just watch your question before and then understand where you have to look. Also, because they mention where you have to look basically, so you can just see, okay, now I have to go here, and don't pay attention to scientific name or all the stuff that you think that it's too complicated, because basically probably it's too complicated, so don't worry about this, don't panic. They want you to panic, so please be calm and read everything, and everything is going to be good. Also, one thing that I paid attention was data sufficiency, and I tried to spend only 1.5 minutes for the data sufficiency. So basically I have more time for the multi-source and everything else.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I love it. And I love the spirit, Enrico, where it's, hey, they're going to give you too much information. Don't panic. Don't panic. Find the thing you need to find. Stay focused. Simran, haven't heard your voice in a little bit. What have you found so far in data insights, both in terms of time management and think what's worked for you? What are the things that you want other viewers to pay attention to? And I think we might have a little internet glitch there, Simran. I think she's a little behind us. Simran, can you hear us okay? Okay, Simran, I think you're frozen up here.
Yeah.
Okay, we got you
I'm
now.
not sure if you can hear me now.
We got you now. Go for it.
Okay, great. Sorry, I didn't get the previous question. I glitched out.
No problem. Internet enriching our lives. Was just asking for same question about data insights. How have you found the time management? Is there anything in particular in terms of how you'd recommend people prep for it and how to think about approaching that section?
Right. I think this being a new section, it's one that I've devoted. I found that just investing a little bit of time upfront when you're interpreting this, specifically the IR part of data insights, interpreting your graphs, interpreting your multi-source reasoning, making whatever notes help you answer questions before you actually get to reading the questions, has helped me particularly. I'm not sure if this is everybody's cup of tea, but that's something that I've noticed help. Familiarizing yourself with the various types of graphs as well is something that should help. I didn't really come up with graphs, though I know a lot of people have been complaining about new types of graphs. But I did come across in a 3D format. So that might throw you off if you're not comfortable with like the basic types of graphs. So yeah, definitely familiarize yourself with all different types of pictorials.
3D. That sounds cool. I haven't run into one of those yet. All right. Naveen, would love to hear what your thoughts on preparing for data insights, time management, MSR. I know you put a lot of thought into this, so love to hear it.
Yeah, in fact, DI is not a monolith. All the four types of questions are you need to master each and every one. And I think one takeaway is that DI is not quant. Okay, so there's not a lot of computation that is required. However, DI is more of if you do one careless mistake, if you miss one line which was very important, and then you will do the whole multi-source reasoning wrong, or you will, there's a lot of things that you need to read, and it's not a lot of things that you need to solve. Okay, so master each type of question. Just see, like one thing that I would recommend is I really want to thank Charles, your DI series. I watched that at least 3 times, all the 6 videos.
I'm so
Yes,
sorry,
because
Naveen. That sounds terrible.
no, no. In fact, that was really eye-opening. In fact, because there is so less material available in the market regarding DI, I was finding stuff on internet, I was finding stuff on YouTube, and yours was the only quality material that I was able to find. So yeah, so yes, go through Charles' videos. You will find out what are the things that, and he has chosen the questions very rightly. Okay, so just see what type of mistakes that you are making in data sufficiency. For example, there is that AD and BCE approach. Okay, go step by step. Okay, don't just jump. Don't just read both of the statements and then make up your mind. Just see whether A is able to solve, or D or B is able to solve. Similarly, for multi-source reasoning, read the question, invest time in reading the question. Don't just start, solving the first question. Just read the statement, all the three. What all things are they telling about? Even if you miss one crucial line, okay, and that could turn out to be a very important line. So yes, so DI is not a monolith. You have to practice all the four types of questions.
That's perfect. And thank you so much for the kind words about the videos, Naveen. I'm glad those helped, because we're, in all honesty, probably TMI, but flying a little bit blind. I mean, so much of what I rely on in videos is, hey, I've taught this to so many people and seen them get their butts kicked, and I know how they get their butts kicked. Data insights is new enough. The question types have existed, but a lot of it is kind of speculation, small sample size of students, as we filmed them before, GMAT Focus was even live. So I'm so glad this helped a little bit. I love what you're saying. I want to highlight this for anybody who's still watching. And if you are still watching, as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, helps us reach more people with this stuff. It is so much more about, not about verbal exactly, not to say that data insights question types are necessarily verbal. Some are more quant heavy, some are some mix of other things. But that, if I'm hearing you right, Naveen, the key skill is that precision in your reading and that attention to detail. And if you drop one little modifier, one little thing in there that ends up
Right.
being key to the question, that's when you get into trouble. And I'm seeing nodding from all three of you. So same experience for everybody, it sounds like, so far. Is that fair?
Yes. A word like most, a word like all, some, these things make a lot of difference in, suppose, two-part analysis. So, yeah.
Perfect. I think that is a great stopping point. I'm getting a nice question from Pooja. Great to see you, Pooja. Any final tips? So I'd love to go around to all three of you one last time and just say, any final tips for people watching? What's the one thing you want them thinking about as they prepare to take the GMAT Focus? And Enrico, I'm going to go to you first, because I have a sense of what you might say, and if I'm surprised, that's awesome too. But what's your one key tip for somebody preparing for the GMAT Focus? What's the one thing you'd like them to focus on?
Honestly, I have two main things that are key for me. Be realistic and look for every details. Be perfectionist, because otherwise you are not going to be to score well. So if you know that you are missing chemistry question on the quant part, look for that question, practice, and you're going to do well. But be realistic, please, and know your weakness.
I love it.
And also your strength.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for doing this, Enrico. Simran. Uh-oh. And we might have enough of a delay here. Go for it, Simran. I think we got you.
Yeah, great. So one thing I would definitely stress on is ensure that you're sticking to quality materials over quantity. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of stuff that isn't as good as the official materials. Stick to official materials. GMAT Club has a wonderful portfolio of questions that are very, very close to what actual GMAT questions are like. Stick to that if you're like me and you can't really invest in a good GMAT tutor. There are a lot of free resources on GMAT Club and on GMAT Ninja's channel. I swear by the entire GMAT Ninja team. They've helped me before and they're helping me again. And just like a side tip, work on your reading. Reading helps across all three sections. It helps with every possible question type. Ensure that you're reading well and you're reading.
Love it. Thank you so much, Simran. And Thank you for the kind words, and really all three of you, thank you so much for all the positivity. I mean, just reading all of your forum posts. Simran's a regular commenter on YouTube videos, and the one thing I'd throw in that I think is maybe not totally unique, but I think a unifying quality of these three individuals is there's a positivity there, and I think that really helps because you can get worn out studying, and I think all three of you have managed to stay positive, keep the positive momentum, try to keep the bad thoughts out. Naveed, last question for you. Same thing. What's the one tip you'd give viewers?
Well, I think Enrico and Simran have told everything. I just like to say one thing, which was a very crucial part of my strategy. It was that if you're good at one topic, try to maximize your score in that topic. Okay. If you're bad at one topic, don't try to, you know, to devote very much time on that topic. Suppose if you're good at quant, like I was good at quant, I was scoring around 84, 85, but I knew that if I push myself during the exam, if I just stay calm and don't do any unforced errors, I can score 88, 89, 90. And I think that helped because the algorithm of overall percentile is such that your sum of scores matter. That is a very crucial point. Your sum of scores matter. Your 90, whether it comes from verbal or from quant, it does not matter as long as you are scoring above 250 in the sum of your all scores. That is the all thing that matters. So maximize your score in the section which you are good at.
So work on your weaknesses, but don't ignore your strengths. Is that fair to me?
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
I love it. All three of you, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And again, if you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps us reach more people with this. All right. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.